What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content here on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit subscribe so you can help decide what direction the content on my channel goes in the foreseeable future. Now, you guys didn't actually think I was going to make you wait a week. Did you? I made you guys wait a week after Alfred. I'm not going to make you guys wait a week for this. That would be cruel, and it would be a terrible thing to do. We are at the end of Injustice in its entirety. There's Injustice Ground Zero, but we're just going to kind of segue directly into Injustice, I guess Injustice 2. Ground Zero is kind of a cool thing, but all Ground Zero really does is show like the game from the perspective of Harley Quinn. That's really about it. So if you played the game, you're just kind of retreading water. But the fact remains here that, again, we pick up with this revelation, this intention of Batwoman to broadcast to the world that Superman is a murderer, that he's a cold-blooded killer. Now, this is huge because the world, like Superman's regime, exists only because the world allows it to. I mean, this is one of the crazy things about this, is because up until this point, we've made the argument that Superman is virtually unstoppable, and in a lot of ways he is, only insofar that people are willing to follow him. But it's one thing when 200 people stand up and say, we're not going to follow the rule of Superman. It's another when like 7 billion do it. And so it's a whole nother kettle of beans, and things get a lot more dangerous. The problem with this is that in the moment of truth, in the moment when Superman's actions are going to be broadcast to the world, Raven stops it from happening. Raven sides with the regime and blacks everything out to the point where the broadcast is just halted. Everything's jammed. None of the information goes out, and so no one sees what it was that Superman actually did. Now, the initial response of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, of Batwoman, of Batman as well, if it's technological, we can solve the problem, we can just overcome the blackout and continue broadcasting, but they can't. It's magical. You can't simply overcome magic. Not only that, Cyborg's waking up, and so in the eyes, or in the idea of Batman, Batwoman, and Batgirl, it's to get out of there, to basically just kind of leave him there, because as soon as Cyborg wakes up, a signal's immediately going out to the Justice League. They're going to know where he's at, and they're going to be there in an instant, and that's exactly what happens. He comes to, the signal goes out, Shazam, Barry Allen, the whole 9 yards, they're there grabbing him and bringing him back. And so at this point, it's panic mode, because right now all the options seem to have been lost. All the options seem to have been gone. Now, Batman's initial response is, okay, well, we need more heroes. We need more people who can fight on our side. We need greater numbers, because right now, I mean, all the major superheroes are either siding with Superman or they're gone, they're dead, or they're just simply not partaking in the events of the planet Earth. And so things are very on a very short string for Batman. There's really not anybody on his side. And so what does he do? He travels to go see Lex Luthor. And that's the cool thing about this, is because it's easy to kind of forget that Lex Luthor is one of the hidden hands working against Superman. I mean, they've been friends for the longest time, but Lex Luthor, he became a turncoat almost right off the bat when Superman became a bad guy. And so because of this, the question that Batman has is, look, we need to find a way to defeat Superman. We need more people. We need more guys to fight on our side. When the idea is brought up of Lex Luthor creating more clones, that's when Lex Luthor brings up the idea. He says, well, who says that the Justice League needs to be from our Earth? Who says that the Justice League that can fight on our side has to be from our reality? And this is when the story begins to transition into the idea of grabbing the Justice League from another universe and bringing them over. And that's one of the things that Batman really kind of asks. Your idea is to grab the Justice League from a parallel universe and to bring them over here. Now, Lex Luthor responds is yeah, and that's kind of the cool thing. This really shows the intelligence of Lex Luthor. What we find out here is that Lex Luthor deduced pretty fast that the Speed Force is a multiversal concept, that the Speed Force stretches all throughout the multiverse, and that every time Barry Allen showed up there, every time Barry Allen ran, every time Barry Allen tapped into the Speed Force, that Lex Luthor was siphoning a little bit of it off here and there. This is a classic example of like skimming off the top, right? If you're working for a company and you're skimming off the top, you don't take like $1 million in one shot. You take pennies. You take a fraction of a cent here and a fraction of a cent there. I got that from Office Space, by the way. That's where everybody in the world learned how to embezzle money. It was from Office Space. But, this is the smartest thing, is because nobody would notice. I mean, think about it. Whenever Barry Allen runs, how much lightning does he put off? How much of a trail is left behind? How often is it that when he punches, he sits down and thinks, man, I really hope nobody's siphoning off my Speed Force while I'm in the middle of this fight? It's a thought that never crosses his mind. It's a thought that never crosses anybody's mind. And that's why it works. The killer that you least expect is the killer that ends up doing you in. And so because of this, what Batman says is, yeah, I could break in there. I could break into Star Labs and get a mother box. But the problem is Star Labs is like the most heavily guarded place ever. And so what he does is he says, let's send somebody else instead. And he tries travels to Bali, Indonesia, and goes and grabs Deathstroke. Now, this is cool because this is how Deathstroke gets rolled into the whole Injustice line of stories. Not only that, we actually end up finding out that when Superman's regime first began to come in, and when it really began to basically eliminate crime, there was no place for Deathstroke. Remember, Deathstroke is a soldier for hire. He's a soldier of fortune. And so if there are no wars, well then of what use is Deathstroke? If there are no conflicting countries, there's no reason for Deathstroke to operate the way that he does. And so because of this, he had essentially gone into retirement. But the funny thing about this is he hates retirement. On the surface, he's like, yeah, man, I'm retired, man. Like, I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. But when Batman says, yeah, but this would be like a suicide mission. Like, there's no guarantee you're ever gonna make it out alive. Deathstroke's response, sign me up, man. Like, he's all down for it. That's what's kind of cool here. Now, let me tell you something. Man, let me tell you something, Rob Core. Let me tell you something. Deathstroke. God, dude, I love Deathstroke as a character. And the reason why is because he offers this really cool commentary. When Lex Luthor and Batman teleport him in, Deathstroke kind of giving us this inner monologue, and he says, Superman's an idiot. If Superman were smart, he would have contracted Deathstroke. He would have said, Deathstroke, I'm hiring you. Your job, or forcing him into it, your job is to kill Batman. And you know what's crazy about this? Deathstroke probably could have pulled it off. Or at the very least, he could have killed everybody that Batman, that would have allied themselves with Batman. Batwoman, Batgirl, anybody, Lex Luthor, anyone that Superman knew about who was an ally of Batman's, even Damian Wayne, if Superman became aware of Damian's allegiances, Deathstroke would have taken him out. He's the one guy that could have just ended the insurgency. But Superman's hubris, Superman's arrogance never led him down that path. It never led him to believe that would have been the case. Now, of course, Deathstroke's able to overcome a lot of these soldiers, different things like that. But the issue that he runs into is that he was never given the exact box of where this mother box was going to be located at. And so what ends up happening is that while he's searching through these different guards show up. Now, off the top of my head, I could probably count about 20 or 30 of these guards. You know what Deathstroke says? Deathstroke says, man, I ain't worried about you, Deathstroke. He says, the first grocery store, the grocery store of Deathstroke's ass whooping is open for business. And believe you me, we are fully stocked. And he takes it to every last one of these guys. He takes these guys out quick, fast, and in a hurry. To quote the immortal El Presidor, one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, he looks at this guy, he says, man, you want some, I'll give you some. He looks to another guy, he says, man, you want some, I'll give you some too, son. Like, he just takes all of these guys out. And that's what's so cool about this, is because Deathstroke is a one-man army. The wrench comes into play with the arrival of Metallo. Now, Metallo is a guy who actually dates back quite a bit in the realm of DC, but he can basically kind of manipulate his body and transmute it into these different elemental forms, make it, a liquid, a gas, different things like that. But it makes him almost impossible to kill. It makes him extremely durable. And so because of this, someone like Deathstroke facing off against Metallo is not the easiest task in the world. And the reason why is because using conventional weapons, Metallo seems almost completely and totally indestructible. And indeed, he actually ends up just thwarting a lot of the weapons that Deathstroke has. His swords don't work, and even the use of his gun doesn't do any damage against Metallo. But this is why Deathstroke is such a great character. This is why Deathstroke is so cool, because of the fact that when Deathstroke fires off a couple of these pellets, they go through, Metallo, where it basically just kind of goes straight through his head. Nothing happens. Of course, he opens it up, so on and so forth. They pass through harmlessly, and they just land on the ground behind them. Deathstroke recalls them and kills Metallo. Now, that's the inherent difference here. Metallo can make his body, turn his body into different elemental forms, but when he doesn't do that, he's just as easily destructible as anybody else. And that's how DC keeps things in checks and balances. In the realm of comics, you have what are called passive powers and active powers. Active powers are where somebody has to do something. So like energy projection, you have to actually project energy out of your hands. Passive abilities are abilities that happen no matter what you're doing. So like Wolverine's healing factor is passive. Somebody can shoot him while he's sleeping and his body will automatically heal. With Metallo, he has active powers. He has to actively make his body physically indestructible. He has to actively turn himself into a gas. It doesn't automatically do that. And that's what this story basically tells us. These two pellets flying into his head essentially kill him, just because of the fact that he didn't make his body indestructible. He didn't project or didn't consider the idea that Deathstroke would recall those two pellets. Much like any kind of amateur fighter, he wasn't looking at the bigger picture. And that's why Deathstroke is so capable, is because he considers all odds in any conceivable conflict. Now, at this point, Deathstroke's basically captured. So and the reason why is because Raven pops up here alongside Cyborg. And so, of course, with the two of these guys, he's basically taken prisoner. But the reason why is because of the fact that Deathstroke knew he wasn't going to make it out of there alive. He knew he was not going to be able to escape without any kind of harm whatsoever. And that's what Bruce Wayne tells Lex Luthor. Bruce Wayne basically says, hey, look, Deathstroke knew he was never going to make it out of there. And so what he did is he basically digitally sent them a 3D schematic of a mother box, basically allowing Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne to build one from scratch. And so when the questions is asked, can we pull this off? Lex Luthor's answer is yes. Now, this is a huge moment because what this does is it signifies hope. It signifies the possibility, the chance to win. And that's something that Batman has needed all along. Even if it's fool's hope, even if it is just a shot in the dark, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's faint, it's very difficult to see, but it's down there. And that's really all that Batman needs. Now, from here, we switch over to the universe where the Justice League from the Injustice game were taken from. And what's really ironic here is that things follow a very similar path in the sense, that we basically have Alfred celebrating his 75th birthday. Superman and Lois Lane reveal to the Kents that they're pregnant. Everybody has a pause for celebration. The reason why it was done this way is because this is starkly different, and it was designed to be that way. It was designed to show us how things could have been, what the world could have looked like if Superman and Batman stayed friends. If Lois Lane hadn't been killed by the Joker, what would the world have looked like? Not only that, we also get this really kind of fun return to familiarity. Sinestro, Black Adam, Bane, Catwoman, Solomon Grundy, Ares, the God of War. These guys are all kind of together launching an attack against, or I guess in different locations, with the Justice League responding. Now, of course, initially on the surface, it seems like business as usual. But what we end up finding out is that the Joker had escaped his cell, and the Joker is the one that organized this whole attack. And the reason why is because of the fact that the Joker is preparing to detonate a nuclear bomb. And so what this seems to show us is that all roads seem to lead to Rome as far as this story is concerned, in the sense that where Deathstroke in this alternate universe is taken out, that where, the other members of the Justice League were able to face off against these other bad guys and presumably, hold their own, that in the end, the Joker is going through with the intention of detonating a nuclear bomb in Metropolis. Now, of course, what this is designed to do is show us how things could be, but also show us what these guys were doing when they were being taken away, when they were being captured, by Batman and Lex Luthor in the Injustice universe. And that's exactly what happens. In the midst of this whole conflict, the Joker, alongside these other members of the Justice League, Batman, the Flash, Wonder Woman, so on and so forth, they're basically whisked away. Now, from here, we transition over to the next, really the last bit of the story. And what this does is it gives us what was going on in the Injustice universe while those heroes were being whisked away from the other universe. And what ends up happening here is Catwoman actually sells out Batman. Now, the explanation she offers here is because of the fact that she wants to preserve his life. Now, this is the cool thing here, is because Selina Kyle knows Bruce Wayne really better than most anybody else. With Alfred being dead, she knows him better than anybody else. And what she's basically doing here is she's being smart, because she knows that if it comes down to it, Batman will fight Superman to the death. Batwoman will sacrifice her life trying to bring down Superman. Batgirl will sacrifice her life trying to bring down Superman. Lex Luthor will die trying to bring down Superman. Catwoman knows that's the extent that they will go to. That's what they were willing to do. That's how much they believe in the cause of what they're doing. And that's how far they stand against Superman. Batman is the exact same way. Even if only for the sake of storytelling, he would be the last man standing, but he would still die. What Catwoman does is she wants him alive. She wants everybody else to live. She wants them to have as good of a life as they can, even if they're under the oppressive regime of Superman. She essentially sells them out. Superman arrives on the scene. Now, this comes in conjunction with, them trying to grab these various individuals from this alternate universe and teleport them in. So it's really just kind of a moment of panic, because it's almost like that scene from Terminator, where the Terminators are invading, everything's crashing down around them, and they send a last-ditch effort to get the Terminator sent out and try to save the past. That's really kind of what's happening here. I mean, Batman's essentially buying time, and the reason why is because the console on the machine is almost completely and totally obliterated. It has to be rebuilt, it has to be restructured, and it has to get back to functionality. And so what Batman has to do here is essentially buy time in the face of almost certain death. Now, the way he does this is awesome. It is so cool, because it's really just kind of like this refresher on everything that's happened so far. And that's what makes Brian Bucoletto's segment on this so cool, is because it basically just shows us where we were. It shows us how it all started. Lois Lane and the unborn child of Clark Kent were killed when Clark was tricked into believing that Lois Lane was Doomsday when the Joker exposed Superman to the Scarecrow's fear toxin that was laced with kryptonite. This set the entire planet on a collision course. Atlantis was almost totally obliterated. Mogo, Ganthet of the Green Lantern Corps, half the forces of the Green Lantern Corps were completely and totally destroyed. This was just one step, just a continuous series of events where people kept dying. Oliver Queen, Dinah, Renee Montoya, Hawkman. These are just some of the people who have all died over the course of the entire events just because of the fact that Superman's wife and unborn child died. Now, Batman continues buying time when he basically asks the question, is this really what you think your parents sent you here for? Was to basically have you take over the world, become a dictator, force your peace onto the world, force your view on how the world should function, basically becoming this dystopian ruler? Or would they look at you the same way that Jonathan and Martha Kent would? They would look at you with shame in their eyes. They would look at you and see someone who failed in the most extreme degree, someone who didn't rise up to show people to lead them into a better future, but someone who tumbled down and drug humanity with them. And that's what's so cool about this, is because it's classic Bruce Wayne playing psychological mind games with Superman and messing with his head. Now, of course, this is when Superman recognizes the earpiece in Bruce Wayne's ear and realizes that he's just buying time. But by that point, it doesn't matter. The teleportation device has been activated. You know, Superman does what he can to destroy it, but it's irrelevant. The Justice League from the alternate universe have been brought over here. The Injustice group have just kind of been scattered to the winds. They've been teleported all over the place. But what this does is this sets the stage for the start of the game Injustice, with Batman realizing that the Joker is here. But with that being said, guys, if you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like. I believe that we have about a week-long gap between the start, between this and the start of the new Injustice comic. So I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna do, but we're gonna have a lapse. We're gonna have a Friday where there is no Injustice content. So it sucks, I know it sucks, but we're gonna have a day where there's no Injustice content, but it'll give me a good break from Injustice because I kind of need to break a little bit. But yeah, guys, we're gonna go ahead and bring this video to an end, and I will catch you guys later. Oh, by the way, I'm kind of curious. If you guys had your favorite moments of Injustice, post those down in the comments. Post your favorite moments of Injustice down in the comment section, and I will catch you all later. Peace.